There is a story Nickelodeon has never told. A story about the man who built the most profitable cartoon in television history, and what the network did to him when it was over. By the time you finish watching this, you will never look at SpongeBob SquarePants the same way again. Stay with me, because this gets much darker before it gets better. The year is 1997. A man walks into a pitch meeting carrying a hand-painted storyboard, a small underwater diorama he built himself at home, and a ukulele. His name is Stephen Hillenburg, and before he became the creator of the most beloved cartoon of his generation, he was a marine biologist, not a writer, not an animator, a scientist who studied sea sponges for a living. Hillenburg had spent years at the Ocean Institute in California, teaching children about ocean creatures using hand-drawn puppets, a sponge, a starfish, a crab. He had a master's degree in marine biology and a love for the ocean so deep that when he finally decided to make a cartoon, he built it around the creatures he had devoted his life to studying. His colleagues called it the Intertidal Zone, a comic he drew in secret, characters nobody had commissioned, a world nobody had asked for. But here is what the official SpongeBob biography always leaves out. Before Nickelodeon, Hillenburg took his concept to other networks, and every single one of them said the same thing: make him edgier, make him darker, give him attitude, make him more like Bart Simpson. Hillenburg refused, every time, because what he understood, and what every executive in Hollywood completely missed, was that in a landscape full of cynical, rebellious cartoons, a character who genuinely loved his job was the most radical thing imaginable. Nickelodeon took the meeting in 1997. The executives were confused by the ukulele. They took the show anyway. SpongeBob SquarePants premiered on May 1st, 1999. And then something happened that nobody predicted. Within months, it was the highest-rated show in Nickelodeon's history. Within 2 years, it had overtaken every cartoon the network had ever produced. But this is where the dark part of this story begins, because success does not belong to the people who create it. Not in Hollywood, not in animation, and especially not at Nickelodeon. As SpongeBob became a phenomenon, the machine arrived. Merchandise, sequel deals, a feature film Hillenburg was not ready to make, a third season that Hillenburg had always intended to be the final one. He had planned it from the beginning. 3 seasons, a complete story, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The way stories are supposed to work. Nickelodeon had different plans. They had $13 billion in merchandise revenue to protect, and they were not going to let one man's artistic vision stand in the way of that. What happened next is the part this story is really about. Hillenburg stepped away after season 3, and what replaced him was a different show wearing the same face. The animation changed. The tone changed. The characters changed. Fans noticed immediately. They called it the post-movie era, and for years the network denied anything had changed at all. But Hillenburg had not given up. In 2015, he came back, and then in 2017. The worst thing happened. Stephen Hillenburg was diagnosed with ALS, a progressive disease that systematically destroys the nervous system, taking movement, speech, and eventually everything else. He kept working. He kept showing up. He kept caring about a cartoon sea sponge, with the same devotion he had given to real sea sponges in the tide pools of California 30 years before. Stephen Hillenburg passed away on November 26, 2018. He was 57 years old, and within months of his death, Nickelodeon announced they were expanding the SpongeBob universe. New spin-offs, new shows, content he had specifically asked not to be made. Here is what this story actually means. Stephen Hillenburg was a marine biologist who walked into a room with a ukulele and changed what children's television was allowed to be. The next time you watch SpongeBob flip a Krabby Patty with genuine joy, know that joy came from a real person, and that the happiness on that screen came at a cost nobody talks about. This is Toon Vault. There is always more to the story. Subscribe, and we will keep telling the ones they do not want you to hear.